What is up? Welcome to Pistons Talk. Hope you guys are having a great day so far. In today's video, what we'll be discussing is a trade idea from BleacherReport.com that does involve the Detroit Pistons. I do want to give a quick shout out to Jason. He had sent this article over, wanted us to react and talk about it, have a good discussion. And if you guys have any topics for the podcast or maybe articles like this you'd like to see me react to, definitely let me know down below in the comment section, or you can reach out like Jason did on Twitter or Instagram, wherever platform you guys are more comfortable with. The DMs are always open for all of you guys. But let's go over this trade, and I know it's going to ruffle some feathers. So the trade idea, and this is actually kind of funny before we get into the trade idea. If you guys haven't watched the Pablo Torres podcast, Paul George backs at the Clippers would actually be kind of funny. But definitely check out the Pablo Torres podcast with Kawhi Leonard, Steve Ballmer, and the Clippers because they're cooked. But getting back to this trade idea, this trade proposal by Bleacher Report, Ron Holland is involved in a trade with the Pistons and the Boston Celtics in this trade proposal. Okay, so this is the trade proposal. They go over why Ron's valuable, why he's a trade chip, but here's the trade. The trade would be the Detroit Pistons would acquire Jaylen Brown from the Boston Celtics for Ron Holland, Jaden Ivey, Tobias Harris, and a future 2027 first-round pick with top 4 protections on it. Okay, so that is the trade proposal that they had cooked up over at Bleacher Report as an idea. Now, again, this isn't something that is official. This isn't something that has even been discussed by either the Pistons or the Celtics. This is just an idea, okay? Like I said, it's September 4th as we're recording this video. We're 4 weeks out from actual basketball, like training camp and stuff like that. So I do have NBA Trade Machine pulled up. I know a lot of you guys, you're visual learners like me. So kind of like looking at something, you can kind of just digest the trade a little bit more. So I'm going to just fix myself a little bit, make myself a little smaller, and here we go. Okay, perfect. So Jaylen Brown to the Pistons for Tobias, Jaden Ivey, Ron Holland, and a future first. Now, the implications you would have with this trade if you're the Pistons, right here, you'd be a hard cap team and you'd be a first apron team because Jaylen Brown's making $53 million. The Celtics, on the other hand, would save a little bit of money because you have Jaden Ivey, who's on a 1 year left of his rookie deal. Ron Holland has 3 years left on his rookie deal. Tobias Harris is an expiring $26 million after this season. So the Celtics would save quite a bit of money making a trade like this, $7.7 million to be exact, and it would put them exactly at 15 standard contracts, where for the Pistons, they would be taking an additional $7.7 million, and they would have 11 guys on standard contracts, and they would have to sign 4 more guys, probably at minimums, just because of the type of contract Jaylen Brown did sign with the Celtics. His extension, pretty damn huge, right? Now, I want to go over the possibility with a trade like this for both sides. We'll start with the Pistons. I think the only way you see the Detroit Pistons make a splash trade like this is if Trajan Langdon feels that the Pistons are one piece away. They're one piece away from making the Eastern Conference and going to the NBA Finals. I don't think he has those answers yet. I feel like any press conference we've seen of him this summer, he still has a lot of questions about this roster. He still has a lot of questions how far this core can take us. And I think those are fair questions that he's trying to get answers to. But I do think in future trades, you probably would have to trade a young piece or two plus a vet to kind of get to the money of a Jaylen Brown. We're not saying like they're going to trade for Jaylen Brown. It could be like a Lauri Markkanen. It could be a player like that. Like you're probably going to have to trade a couple young pieces, a draft pick or a vet, depending on like what the team wants, right? So, for the Pistons side, I don't really think that they're looking to make a big splash like this right now, because they want to see what this young core can do with another year under JB, and how far they can take them. If they win 50 games, they're a top 4 seed, they win a playoff series, Trajan would have more answers to the questions that he had going into this offseason. But, let's say the Pistons, kind of have a step back. They're, not a top 6 seed. Maybe they're like a 7th or 8th seed or even a play-in team to take a step back. He would also have answers that way of how to attack the roster and what players they need. I don't really know adding Jaylen Brown right now would, help them win a championship. I think they would definitely be up there with Orlando. In others, I think adding a Jaylen Brown and a Cade Cunningham and still having a Sarr and Jalen Duren on the roster would be fun. They would be very competitive. Having wings of a Sarr and Jaylen Brown would just be crazy to me, just thinking about it. But I don't really know if the front office is willing to bite the bullet. I know some of you guys probably would, and I understand it because you're trying to win now and you're trying to keep pace with the teams in the East, and not having Indiana right there because Halliburton's out. Jason Tatum is out for this year. I could understand the mindset of trying to, propel yourself up the Eastern Conference standings. That's for the Pistons side. Now, holy crap, my bad, my mic fell. Apologize. For the Celtics side, I think no way in hell they do this trade. And the reason for that is I still think they're going to be a playoff team this year. Now, I don't think they're winning 60-plus games. I just don't. I think they will be around anywhere from like 8 to possibly 6 seed. Never really know. With Joe Mazzulla and, the acquiring Anthony Simons, if they do decide to keep him. Jaylen Brown is still a really good player. But I think the Celtics want to keep a core of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown together. I'd be very shocked if he was moved. I think another thing with the Celtics, and this is a really good opportunity for them to see, is can Jaylen Brown handle being a number one? There's been so many debates who's the true number one in Boston with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Some nights it is Jaylen Brown. Other nights it's Jason Tatum. I think this is a really good opportunity not only for Jaylen Brown, but the Boston Celtics to see, can Jaylen Brown carry the scoring load and the leadership role of being a number one option for the Celtics? This is a very good opportunity for not only Jaylen Brown, but the Celtics front office to see if he can handle that. I happen to think he can, but that's just me. And I think that's another reason why the Celtics don't make a trade like this. Not to say that Tobias Harris, Jaden Ivey, and Ron Holland aren't valuable, you guys. I think they are. I really do. But I think that there are other teams with more draft picks that could persuade the Celtics from moving on from Jaylen Brown. I think of like OKC has a lot of draft picks. Utah is kind of a sneaky team because Danny Ainge is in Utah and he drafted Jaylen Brown, and he's been acquiring a lot of draft picks in recent years. So, I mean, those are teams that I would look at before the Detroit Pistons. Not to say that, Jaden Ivey couldn't be, a trade piece, which I think he could. Not to say Ron Holland couldn't be a trade piece. I think he could. If you're trying to get to, a star player. I think you definitely could have these conversations. And now that the Pistons have draft picks available, I just don't really see this being enough for the Celtics. They would probably want more. That's just my opinion on it. You may think that this is more than enough for Jaylen Brown. I just can't see the Celtics, trying to make this trade. I do want to end the video with this, and this is optimism by me. Okay? Now, Ron Holland's favorite player is Jaylen Brown. Okay? He'd mentioned this with KG, Kevin Garnett, when he got interviewed with him on his podcast. And I wanted to pull up both of their rookie seasons, right? So we're on stathead.com and kind of looking at the comparisons between Jaylen Brown's rookie year and Ron Holland's rookie year. And they're very similar outside of three-point percentage. The points per game, Jaylen Brown was at 6 points his rookie year. Ron was at 6.4. The rebounds, 2.8 to 2.7. But you kind of look like Ron had more assists, more steals, more blocks, had a better field goal percentage. Obviously, Jaylen Brown shot the ball better, but better free throw percentage, efficient field goal percentage, BPM, and VORP, if you guys know what that is. But, I mean, you just kind of look at their stats like, Ron played more games. He played 81. Jaylen Brown played 78. Ron only started 2. Jaylen Brown started 20, which actually kind of favors Ron because he was playing off the bench in kind of like an energized role. And why I say this is optimism. I'm not saying that Ron Holland is going to turn into Jaylen Brown. I'm not saying that. But he's the type of archetype. He's that 2-3 archetype that I think a lot of teams covet. A lot of teams covet players on the wing like that. If Ron can develop a consistent 3-point shot, like around 35%, and bring all the intangibles defensively, I think the Detroit Pistons would be better off developing Ron Holland and seeing how far he can go as a basketball player versus, hey, there's an established guy in Jaylen Brown right now that we could possibly get if we throw in Ron Holland, Jaden Ivey, and Tobias in a first. I think the Pistons would be better off just kind of playing the patient game in the development game right now, in my personal opinion, because what we saw this year from JB Bickerstaff and his coaching staff is the development that these guys had last year, in my opinion, I thought was pretty cool. It was pretty incredible. Like the development we saw with Cade Cunningham from, game 5 to, game 6 in the first round. Completely different player. The development we saw from Isaiah Stewart in terms of his rim protection, it got better as the season went on. The development we saw from Asar Thompson, just conditioning himself on the fly with no training camp, having blood clots, and he got a lot better. This coaching staff, to me, I think, can squeeze out whatever potential Ron Holland does have and turn him into a two-way player. I honestly think that. I will die on that hill. There was a reason why I felt that the Pistons were going to draft him in his draft class. I felt like he was a player that, if the jump shot became a little bit more consistent, this could be just a two-way monster. Like, if he develops a jump shot, you guys, there could be real conversations of him, getting into the starting lineup as possibly a shooting guard, possibly a small forward. And I think he's just scratching the surface. We've seen reports of him, gaining over 10 to 12 pounds this summer of just muscle. So they're preparing him to have a pretty big season in 25-26. But I did want to kind of discuss this today. Me personally, I probably wouldn't make this trade just for the fact that I don't really think that the Pistons are positioned to win an NBA championship right now. I think that the core that they have, they still have a lot of answers to. I think that another year of development, another year of JB working with these guys and the assistant coaches working with these guys would be better, in my personal opinion. It really would, versus just kind of biting the bullet, putting 2 of your chips in, Ron Holland and Jaden Ivey to try to get Jaylen Brown, and you turn into a first apron team. I think the team would kind of have a ceiling and they'd be capped. But let me know down below in the comment section what you guys think of this trade proposal from Bleacher Report. Again, the trade was, put it on the screen for you guys, Jaylen Brown in exchange for Tobias Harris, Jaden Ivey, and Ron Holland, and a protected 27 first-round pick, top 4 protected to be exact. But I will talk to you guys down below in the comment section. Like always, you guys, hope you guys are staying safe. Take care. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.